Welcome to Workin It Out, PorchLight's monthly webinar series where we bring panelists together to discuss the issues that affect our workforce. My name is Jessica Myers, CEO of PorchLight, and today our subject is a look behind the curtain at small town programming that builds community. Before we get started, I'd like to share a little bit about PorchLight and what we do. PorchLight's focus is in rural workforce development. And as we approach the work, we approach this work in three different ways. First, we work with candidates through resume writing and interview prep. Next, we partner with community or companies and organizations that have a rural footprint or want to hire rural employees. And lastly, we come alongside rural communities to conduct support services in strategic planning, housing studies, community assessments, and our very own PorchLight certification reserved for communities of populations of 5,000 and fewer. I share all of this to say we understand rural, we are from rural communities, and we see the incredible opportunity in our rural areas. In the past year, PorchLight has had the great pleasure of assisting two communities through our PorchLight certification course. Through this facilitated course, both Highmore and most recently the Gayville-Vollen area have been able to think through community programming. Today's speakers will be able to share the programming in their communities in an effort to spark ideas that may work in your community. So let's get started. To kick off the webinar, I'm going to pass it over to the Director of Policy and Communities here at PorchLight, Burke Ermintrout.
Thank you, Jessica. I am excited to introduce our fantastic panelists today. We'll hear a brief presentation from each of them, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So as you listen to the panelists, we encourage our attendees to put questions in the Q&A box, and we will try and get to them during the Q&A time. Once each of the panelists has had a chance to present, we'll have some time for all three of them to respond to the questions you ask. So please, anytime throughout, drop your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll try and get to them as quickly as possible. First up, our first panelist is Kelsea Sutton, who works as an attorney for First Fidelity Bank in her hometown of Burke, South Dakota. She is a passionate homecomer, and when she isn't lawyering, she likes to spend her free time working on community development and rural advocacy. She helps run several local nonprofits, and together with her husband launched a statewide leadership initiative to empower more community-minded and courageous servant leaders. She loves historical fiction, powerlifting, and spending summers on the Missouri River with her family. Kelsea, take it away.
Thank you, Burke. I'm going to share my screen. I've got some slides. Okay, I'm really happy to be here today with everybody. Everybody who's devoted to rural development. I'm really excited to hear from Eric and Tommy as well and engage with their work. And I've put my email here, and I will have Burke put my cell phone number in the chat. It's 605-830-5039. I hope you'll call or email or text me to ask questions or share your thoughts about rural development. You know, just a little bit more quickly about me. Burke said I'm a bank lawyer, and I love working at especially a small independent community bank. We have branches in 11 rural communities in South Dakota, and I think that they're just the heart of community development. So I really enjoy my work here. I'm a community leader. You know, I love doing community projects. I have done a lot of different things. I'm going to share some of them with you today. And I just think that there's no better work than making the place you love a place of prosperity and opportunity. And then, you know, I'm a person. Burke shared some of my favorite things. The Missouri River is one of the great loves of my life. Historical fiction is awesome. TV and books. TV rocks. And I think that it's important to remember that you're a person when you're doing some of this really hard work in your community. Got to share my people. You know, this is my family. Billy and I live in Burke together. We're raising our 3 sons, and we have a daughter, Lenny, who spent a week with us in 2020. and they're adorable and our house is nuts. So it's a little context about my family life. So I love community projects, and I have done several of them, and I'm just going to share a snapshot of some of them that are, to me, really special, and or that I'm just really excited about in this moment. But there's others, and so I'm happy to talk about all different kinds of things. The first one is the Burke area farmers market. We started the farmers market in 2012. It has been just sort of explosively growing. It really taught me, the farmers market project really taught me that one of the most important things you can do is build community and fun first, and sort of like the economic opportunities will build from that. So the farmers market has been a great project, and I am happy to share more about how we grew that a little bit later. Parks and Rec. So in 2020, when we lost our daughter, we did this project. You can see this is our son Liam at the splash pad in Burke, where we raised money and wanted a water play option in our park. We have a pool on either side of us in Burke, or in Gregory, 8 miles to the west, and in Bonesteel, 20 miles to the east. So we didn't need another pool in our county, but we did need something to do when it was hot in the summer. And we took that opportunity to really reimagine the whole park space and think about making it safer and more connected. More trees, more accessible walkways. We have 2 murals there now. So this other thing you can see here is the first of its kind court mural in South Dakota. We are inspired by Project Backboard to do that, and a local artist created an Oscar Howe inspired ball court mural, and the court now has lines on it for pickleball, tennis, and basketball. And Parks and Rec are just really, you can always feel good about investing in your green spaces, your parks. And it's really grown into a master trails plan for the entire community to connect different safe routes to different parts in town, like the school to downtown to the park. And we're looking at the golf course and a recreational lake we have outside of town too. Okay, I'm particularly obsessed with this one right now, childcare and out of school. We participated with GoEd in their grant writing over the last couple of years to create a report that's specific to Gregory County, and then to implement some of the solutions for the childcare crisis. And one of those was adding after school care. What I love about this is that over the last several years, we'd really laid the groundwork for connecting the people providing daycare in centers, nonprofit centers, with each other across the county and with economic development leaders across the county. And so we were very able to quickly lift off doing collaborative work together. And I think that really made our grant writing successful, and it's really made the landscape a lot stronger across the county for future work. So the after school program was a clear need out of that reporting. We added 90 school age after school and summer care spots across the county. And by pulling those kids out of the daycares that were not built, daycare programs that weren't for their age, we opened about 30 spots for infants and toddlers across the county as well. We also raised wages and eliminated operating deficits that were pretty serious for each of the centers. So I'm super into this project. I would love to talk with you more about how successful it is. And of course, I have to mention Sutton Leadership. Billy and I helped launch this program together in 2019. And I think it's just really beautiful work to us. You should apply. But also, I think it's so important to remember that a big part of leadership and rural programming in your community is identifying and helping other people become leaders in your community too. So these are just a few of the projects that I've done, but I've had some key learnings. I'm condensing like 10 years of projects and successful projects, but also like failures, right? And rejections and things that kind of flopped or didn't go the way I expected them to go into this brief PowerPoint and presentation. But I have learned some things over the years that I think can really help people have more success more quickly, even though it's important to learn through failure too. So one thing that is important is building trust. So I show up over and over. I'm a like iconic pain in the butt at school board, city council, county commission meetings, asking, hey, can we apply for this grant? Hey, I want to do this project. Hey, I want to talk to you about this. Hey, I have a vision. Let's try it this way. And lots of times I think that trust really started when I was showing up and saying, look, I'm going to pay for this and I'm going to do the work. So will you just give me permission? That goes over really well. And I think over time, even people who don't always, have the same vision as me or agree with how I want to do things, they know that I'm there doing something that I think is great for the whole community, and that there's no sort of separate agenda. So I think that you're never wasting time if you're building trust with other people in your community, both organizations and individuals. This is a learning I've kind of come to more recently, although I think I knew it, I just didn't quite have the language for it. But been thinking about taking risks and doing new projects and how to talk to community boards and individuals about that. And I was kind of repeating over and over, oh, maybe I just have a stronger risk appetite than other people do, and I need to be cognizant of that and how that operates with different things in my own background and privileges in my life. But I also realized that, in particular, I've been working on a housing project, and the reason that I feel so strongly about the vision is because I have been immersing myself in understanding rural demographics and migration patterns and all this different census data that makes people, it's the context for taking the risk, right? And so if you can arm yourself with that, whether it's Parks and Rec, whether it's community health and healthcare, or it's housing, or it's childcare, if you can read a book or read several articles or follow all the organizations that are doing similar work, and engage with people who are already experts, right? If you arm yourself with that knowledge and that data and that information, you're giving people, you're saying, hey, I know this because, and then you're giving them the context to take a risk with you. And I think this really came together well for me the other day, because I've been working on this project in particular. And one of the people I was talking to about it said, Kelsey, I really don't understand any of this stuff that you're talking about. I don't really understand healthcare, and I don't really understand this housing stuff, but I do understand construction, and I trust you to understand the other stuff, right? And so that's kind of like a collision course in this long-term trust building and, making yourself an expert in what you're working on. But it really solidified the idea for me that we all have different roles to play, and one you can play is knowing your area really well. And then engagement. And this has been my hardest lesson to learn, do community engagement always, always, always. You can do it at the beginning, you can do it in the middle. It's never too late. You can do it again at the end. You can do it again when you're starting over. And so I I think there's a way you can see, like, oh, scheduling that public meeting, having these meetings, it's just going to waste time. I just want to get to the project. Just want to figure it out. I just want to go. But that community engagement is so important. And you can do it through little focus groups. You can do it through public meetings. You can do it through newspaper articles and social media posts. You can do it through surveys, and you can do it through all of those, at once. And I think I've really understood that when you're doing that, you're not only asking people what they truly need, which is really important to understand what your community really needs, but you're also asking people, you're educating and influencing people along the way, right? You're teaching them about that knowledge that you have and how it connects into projects in their community. And it just makes them want to come along with you and feel like they're a part of it, instead of learning about it later and then, you being frustrated that everyone doesn't just see what a great idea this is, right? And so if you really take responsibility for that engagement and that communication, projects are going to go a lot better. So, these are just a few of my learnings. They're kind of broad brushes, but I hope that we can talk about them more. And I hope that you also know that it can be really hard work and you really need to take care of and honor yourself and your own family when you get kind of tired and burn out too. So that's all I have. I'm excited to participate in the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelsey. That was great. I am excited that up next is Eric Hortness. He's the Executive Director of the Greater Madison Area Chamber of Commerce, where downtown in Madtown is the definition of a community event. Since 2018, the family-friendly concert series in downtown Madison has increased from a half a block to 3 full blocks in 2024 and averages 2,000 to 3,000 in attendance each of the 6 weeks. Developing strong partnerships is a key component to the success of the event. Eric, you're up.
Thanks, Burke and Jessica and PorchLight for having me on. Kelsey, that was excellent stuff. Definitely partnerships are kind of a big thing in our chamber office. I'll start off by just another example to help events kick off is you have to develop excellent partnerships. One other example before I get into downtown Madtown is last year we started working with a company that works with chambers across the nation, and they take trips overseas. We took 8 people from Madison last October that went to Italy. And then this last October, we just had 32 that returned from Scotland. And the group brought back a present for me, the 32 people that went to Scotland. It's a kilted yoga book from Scotland. And so if you develop good partnerships, you get presents like kilted yoga. But as we get into downtown Madtown, like Burke said, in 2018, we started this. We had a representative from our economic development office that knew a guy, the quote unquote, I know a guy that puts on these types of events. So we brought him in as a consultant to start planning downtown Madtown. And I had no clue how this event was going to go, but I've always been the theory of we'll try anything once as long as it doesn't bankrupt us, get us thrown in jail, or get us fired. So we ventured down this downtown Madtown path, and it's exactly how Burke described it. It's a family-friendly downtown concert series for 6 weeks in downtown Madison on Tuesday nights from 6 to 9 p.m. We start shortly after the 4th of July, and we end sometime towards the end of August with our concerts. To give you an idea, I do have a few pictures to share here. Hopefully everybody can see these. So this was our very first event in 2018. We had half a block in downtown that was blocked off, and our stage there is very rugged, and some of that banner rigging you can't see in the pictures, but some of the banner rigging is held together with duct tape and whatever else we could find to keep that banner rigging upright. And then this was the crowd the first night. I didn't know what to expect. I was leery about if people would show up, and what are we going to do when this bankrupts the chamber. But the first night we ran out of beer. Not that it was a big party and everybody had too much to drink. It's just that's the crowd that we had. We ran out of beer the first night. The first year we had one porta potty. Fast forward to this year, This is our stage setup now. We pull in a flatbed, and we purchased our own banner rigging, much more conducive to our wind and bigger banners. Our sound company that we've had the last 5 years brings in the lighting and the big speakers. They're from Brookings. The first year, these bands showed up in kind of jalopy, rickety vans. Now they pull up in these big motorhome tour buses. And this was our crowd during Classic Car Night. So as Burke mentioned, we are now up to 3 blocks. We have our 2 main blocks that are seen in this picture. And then down a half a block on each side, we also block off for inflatables and a Strider bike course and things like that. So we've added in a theme each night. This picture shows our Classic Car Night. So people just pull in and park their classic cars on the second block. It's not a car show. We don't give out awards or anything like that. People just want to show off their classic cars. So it gives people another event to bundle in with downtown Madtown. Some of our other themes, we do a bike night centered kind of around the Sturgis bike rally. But we have people that will ride their bicycles down and park them in amongst the motorcycles, scooters and different things like that. We've also combined with National Night Out, which is a first responder event. And so all of the first responders, fire, police, emergency management, game fish and parks, they all set up on the second block. We do an egg appreciation night on the second block. And this year we had a sanctioned kids pedal pull on the second block. So it continues to get bigger and better. I guess another sign of the event growing is we started with 1 porta potty and now we're at 4 porta potties. So some numbers to kind of go through. The first year, we spent $9,300 in bands. This year, we spent $24,000 in bands. The first year, we sold $9,700 worth of beer. This year, we sold $17,000 worth of beer, and that was only 5 weeks. Our last week got rained out this year, unfortunately. The first year, we had 13 sponsors. This year, we had 57. The first year, we had 6 vendors. And those vendors, the first year, we told them, we're not going to cost you, we're not going to charge you a vendor fee. Thank you for jumping in with this new event with us. And for as long as you want to keep coming back, your booth fee will be 0. So we had 6 vendors the first year. This year we had 20 vendors, and all 20 of them are now paying a booth fee because the original 6, they're either don't want to be down there, but they want to enjoy the atmosphere more than they want to be working. But we have 20 vendors now that set up shop every all 6 weeks. Couple of other things are bands. When we started talking to our consultant, he said you'll get 2 things that you'll get pushback on is 1, the bars downtown will be upset that they don't get to serve the beer. And how we handle the beer is we get the beer license and we order the beer and set up the beer tent area. And then our United Way will run the beer area for us. They sell the beer each night, and then they get a portion of the profits, and then they get to keep all the tips. So we sell our beer for $4, and typically people will pay with a 5 and then donate the other $1 back to the United Way. So it's an excellent fundraiser for the United Way. And our consultant was right. The bars starting off were a little upset that they didn't get to sell the beer. But then after the first few weeks, at 9 o'clock when our event shuts down, a lot of people filter into their bars. So they were asking to do more and more weeks of our event. So that pushback kind of got taken care of. The second pushback that we were made aware of from our consultant was our local bands. We don't have local bands play. And our consultant was very firm on that to not allow local bands. You can go any place, anywhere else during the week and hear these bands. So your crowds probably aren't going to be as big if it's somebody that they can hear every week. And that was true. We had a couple local bands that were upset, but then once we started bringing in the talent that we did, and the bands saw what kind of talent we were bringing in, they were perfectly fine with it. And one of the band members, he doesn't miss a week. He's down there early to watch the bands get set up and do their sound check, and he doesn't miss a week. He loves it. So those were two things that our consultant was very forward thinking on, and we took his suggestions and went with it. I'm more than, I mean, I could talk about downtown and Madtown for quite a while. It's really turned into our big signature event in the summer. Everybody looks for it, forward to it. They start asking us what the bands are going to be. And so it's really turned out to be a great community event. It makes the chamber some money. It makes some of the nonprofits some money. Gives some of our local businesses a chance to advertise their business. And so all in all, it's been an excellent event. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. If anybody wants to reach out after the webinar too, I can jump on a call with them. If it's a board meeting or something like that, I'd be more than happy to come to the board meeting and talk about things also. So thank you again for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Our final presenter today is Dr. Thomas Merriman from Beresford, South Dakota. Husband and dad to 4 teenagers, he's currently serving as the president of his church and vice president of Beresford's community arts organization. Professionally, he teaches high school English courses and has been the director of theater for 15 years. Throughout his tenure, he has served in many capacities, including as a cross-country head coach, journalism supervisor, yearbook supervisor, and student council advisor. Dr. Merriman's goal is to serve his community in ways that promote positive relationships and create growth for students, parents, colleagues, and community members. When not being with his family, teaching or directing, you can probably find him reading, playing guitar, or walking his 2 Vizsla puppies. Dr. Merriman was my teacher in high school, so I struggle not to call him that, but he insisted. So Tommy, take it away.
All right, thank you, Burke. Can everybody see my screen okay? Burke, do you know?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So thank you, Jessica, Burke, PorchLight. This is an honor to be asked to come and share my insights on community building. And I loved listening. I took a lot of notes already from Kelsey and Eric. And Eric, our Beresford Area Arts, does a summer concert series in our park Wednesday nights of the summer. So took a lot of great ideas from you there. So I love the title of Working It Out, by the way, of this webinar, because I am a Beatles fan, and the Beatles, of course, have the We Can Work It Out song. Trying to see it my way, only time can tell if I'm right or wrong. While you see it your way, there's a chance that we might fall apart before too long, and we can work it out. And I think with community, you always have these possibilities of, people coming through and disagreeing on things, and it can cause some conflict. But at the end, that we all mean well. We all want, what's best for the community. Kelsey kind of mentioned that before, and what she's doing in her county. And I think that in my role, some background on me, you can see in this picture, I'm a director of theater at Beresford High School and involved with the Beresford Area Arts on the performing arts side. And so theater is my world. And bringing these people together, these are this year's seniors at our high school. We just wrapped up a production last weekend. And looking at those faces, they are an eclectic group of young men and women who are into sports or have jobs or into oral interp or debate. And they just have a variety of perspectives. But what theater gets to do is share our lived experiences with one another. And then we're able to tell a story and try to have a night or a couple of nights where we can bring community together. And despite things that we might disagree on, we can work it out together through conversation, engagement, and all of those sort of things. So I love that aspect of theater, especially when it comes to community theater. And since this title was Behind the Curtain, I thought I would share just a couple of snapshots of these are the last 15 years of directing, a few different behind the scenes shots and rehearsal shots, along with some quotes that some of my students or other people I've worked with have said or shared with me through cards. And I won't read them all, but to be able to say that what theater does is give me a positive way to deal with the stuff of life. It's made me okay with who I am and where I'm going. And that resonates with all of us because we all come from a place of, where there's either trauma or loneliness, or, you think you're the only one. But theater has a way of being able to come together in real positive ways and help us to deal and also grow with empathy with each other. And I think that's really important for community to do. Our community productions are fantastic productions. We've been going strong as a community production team for over 20 years. This is actually our 25th anniversary as a Beresford Area Arts. And that started before I got involved, but I grew up in Beresford. I graduated from Beresford. So I'm highly invested in our community and what we do. My kids are being raised here. And so what the community arts is doing by bringing people together in this community is a spectacle to be part of. And I think it's just a great way to build that positivity. So to go with my mission statement, this tweaks every year just a little bit, but right now my main mission in my professional life is to advocate for creative growth of all students and families by building positive rapport with all individuals who I'm blessed to support. And I chose that picture particularly. That's taken a long time ago now, but I always come to the class with a mindset that if I'm the goofiest, most odd person in the room, then the kids can target me in bullying and not bully each other. So they can do that, and I'm okay with that. But also show students, here is who I am, and here is who we are, and it kind of helps build some rapport with each other. And that positivity transcends the classroom because it goes into these young people who will grow up, graduate, and stay in the community or go to other communities and learn to communicate with each other and to grow ourselves in better ways. I think that last part of that statement is really what I wanted to share. If there's a takeaway for you today, I love this philosophy, and I try to hold true to it, which is who I am blessed to support. I come to my classroom, and when I'm with the community arts and we're doing things, I try my best to keep the perspective of that's a person in my life who's come into my life through theater that I can support in some way. And I think that that's a blessing. I think that that's something that shouldn't be taken for granted. And when you do that, and when you focus on how we can support each other and support others, it might not be through theater. What Madison's doing with their summer concert series, what's Kelsey's doing with her childcare and after school programming, and all of those wonderful things. It's about supporting one another in our small communities in new ways. So if there's a gap in your community, what can you do with your passion and with you, what it is that you love to do in order to support somebody else? And that becomes an inclusive thing where people who might be on the outside of your community, who might be new to your community, who aren't sure where they fit in or who they can socialize with, suddenly it invites them into that part of the community, and that's what builds everything really well. So I try to hold true to that mission statement as best as I can. And to do that effectively, I love this quote from Martha Graham, which is that theater is a verb before it's a noun. It's an act before it is a place. That is probably one of the truest things I've ever read about theater. It is not something that we just go to, a place we go to, but we act, and not just acting on stage. We have costumers and prop managers and set designers and light technicians and all of these people who aren't just sitting here in a theater. We're actually doing something. And why do we do it? Community theater is not professional, thousands and thousands of dollars being spent on a production. It's people coming together, who have all sorts of different trades or jobs, careers, families, dynamics, health, and we come together to present ourselves in front of others and to act in a way that we can do something for our community, to tell stories, to share those stories, and to celebrate each other through all that we do. And so whatever it is you do, it might not be theater, but again, what are you doing as an action that helps bring a positive response to your community? And I think that's important for all of us, especially in these small communities. And so these are 4 areas that I think, a couple of examples in my 15 years here, that I've seen things happen without necessarily intending it to happen. But when theater's being used as an action, I have seen business support and connection happening. My high school theater last Christmas was asked to do a Christmas party, to host a Christmas party for a business in town. And so we did a murder mystery, acted it out. We invited some of the employees to be participants in that. It was a lot of fun. My kids loved it. The business loved it. And in that turn built a more positive relationship between school and theater and business. And in return, without expecting it, they donated a need to our theater, which was new lighting fixtures, which was an amazing experience that went right into our next show and made that show something that was much more delightful for our audience. Community input and response is hugely important, especially in the Beresford area arts side. We're able to communicate with people and what is it that you want us to do, and that's input has allowed us to bring in things like the magical singers or storytellers. And so it's not just us doing things, but it's us finding resources to come into our community, to give a need that maybe we didn't know was there. School pride and celebration is huge. I'm very proud that in the last 10 years, 6 of our 10 one-acts have gone on to the state festival and have earned superior awards. And that's something that just continues to build and bring other people into the program. And I'm biased, but I think theater is one of the great experiences that any student can have, because it builds that empathy, and theater is something that you can do the rest of your life. And finally, that commitment, family commitment and value. I'm blessed with a ton of amazing families. We had an anonymous donor even this year give a gracious gift for new microphones for our theater. And that's from families who see the value that we're doing for our community and what can we do to support you. I can't come and build your set, but you know what? I have X amount of money. Is there something you can do with this money? And those sort of things build connections that I never set off in this start to build, but it happens naturally through, like what Kelsey said, building trust, engaging with community, and just knowing that, you know what, we are here to build a better place, a better tomorrow for our kids. And suddenly you start seeing these awesome things happening. So I love being part of theater. I think that if the last thing I would say is, if you have a community that has an arts program, a community arts, or if it's high school, if there's a performance arts opportunity there, even if you don't feel comfortable being on stage, what can you do to help support them? And sometimes that just means showing up and going to the performance, because maybe your coworker, maybe your, somebody that works at the school, your teacher, is in that show or in that production somehow. You showing up to that production means the absolute world to everybody. And it might not be professional theater. And there's going to be some hiccups in that show probably, but it's a memory and it's a connection that is vitally important to building your community. So thank you, PorchLight and Burke, and Jessica and all the panelists here. It's awesome to be here. I hope I can answer some questions if you have any for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Merriman. All right, we are ready to open this up for some Q&A. So I encourage all of our panelists to come back on camera. And for our attendees, please, these panelists are so excited to answer your questions. If you have questions, get them in the chat and we will jump into it. It can be for any of our panelists or all of our panelists, but I'm going to go ahead and dive in with a few questions. So in the theme of today's program, some of you touched on this a little bit, but I'm curious for an example of how the programming you talked about, or maybe something else in your community, has affected how your community connects to each other, how they relate to each other. If anyone wants to jump in, feel free. Otherwise, I'll call on somebody.
I'll go, Burke.
Awesome.
So I think I want to use the farmers market as an example. We were operating early years on these empty lots on Main Street, and we really wanted to build this green space on Main Street to host the market that had all these like cool, beautiful things. And I ended up doing some development training, and we had focus groups before we dove into this, and we had really diverse groups of people get together separately and say what they wanted to experience at a farmer's market. And they all wanted the same stuff. They wanted shade, they wanted bathrooms, they wanted places to sit, they wanted stuff for kids to do safely. And guess what had all of that stuff already? The city park. And so we ended up moving. We were nervous. We thought we needed to be on Main Street, to grab the traffic to have a customer base. But moving to the park absolutely changed the whole landscape of the farmers market. We actually, one of our biggest problems right now is we kind of have too many customers each week. And so what happened over years, we moved in 17 or 18. So it's been several years there now, but it has become an activated community space, right? It's a part of our community's identity. And I think we're really a part of building food culture and gathering culture in our community. I think we've both led that and reflected it back to people, and we see it percolating in other food businesses and other things that are happening in our area. So I think just that engagement piece at the beginning changed everything for both the market itself as an organization, but also for our town.
I think for us, for our downtown Madtown event, it's any demographic that you can think of attends downtown Madtown. We have people from out of town that come to downtown Madtown. We've even started to get people that'll drive up from Sioux Falls that will come to downtown and Madtown. They've heard about it, and it's just an excellent event. A few of our employers, especially DSU, sometimes they'll maybe schedule some of their interviews so that the interviewee might have their interview Wednesday morning, but they come in Tuesday night so that they can come to downtown Madtown and see what Madison has to offer. So I think it's just a way for any type of demographic to come and be part of the community.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add to that, except, in the Beresford area arts world, when we're doing community productions, it's outreach too. So we're conducting outreach to businesses especially, but even to the school. And how can we involve the school? How can we involve businesses in ways that just kind of bring more people together to, ultimately create a better show, but then bring bring those entities together to create some magic. And so it's just that engagement piece.
I just
Awesome.
want to
Well,
pipe one more thing in, Burke, and say, you know, when you're doing that engagement, like we're all kind of saying a very similar thing, I think, right? About around engagement and being with our community, but never be afraid to be both telling people the truth of what you're doing or where you're going, but also speak aspirationally to them about who you see them as, right? Like how you see your community and how you want them to see themselves too. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you all. Those were great answers, great information. I just want to shout out Sammy Zas. Didn't have a question, but said, just here to say, I love them all, have experienced each of their impact in very different ways and parts of my life. I want to say thank you for what they did and continue to do. So just speaking to how awesome this panel of folks is here. Next question I've got is, would love to hear, someone kind of mentioned this a little bit, but an example of where something maybe didn't go to plan, but informed future successes, and how you kind of experienced that in the moment and how it affected things going forward. Because I think that's just classic when you're doing any type of programming, right? Is things don't go to plan. But curious if anyone has reflections on that.
That's a great question. I think I think that I probably have more failures than successes sometimes, especially early on as a director. But just the community side of it, the performing arts or the Beresford area arts. I think early on we got involved as well, like what Madison's doing, trying to build some summer concert series. And it's just us. The Beresford area arts is a very small group of people, and I think that one thing that we still struggle with, or we had seen some failure early on with, was one is, how do you market out to the community? We had when we started a sort of a dying local newspaper. So, you know, the newspaper didn't really help build in a readership that would be able to come. Our social media was also something that just wasn't really prevalent at that time. So how can we engage these people? And I think what we've learned as a group more this last year, especially, we're talking about is bringing in people who are willing and able and understanding how to market ourselves through social media. So this last year we did some branding. We had Kaylin Hoffbeck, who is a former graduate, and she's in graphic design. She came up with new branding for us that we put out now. We're more consistent with putting things out and starting an Instagram page now too. And just little things like that, I think, have helped a lot get word out of what we're doing. And it's been much more successful the last 6 months, probably, what we're doing.
I would say for our event, I mean, it's a outdoor event, and you got to try and plan for anything. You need partnerships to have these types of great events, but the more partnerships you create, sometimes creates maybe some more problems too. I mean, we've had a week where 2 hours before the event was supposed to start, our inflatable company called and said they weren't coming. The porta potties have been parked on the wrong corner. A cloudburst shows up unannounced and downpours for 15 minutes. So just somebody plugs into the wrong outlet and throws the whole breaker. I mean, so you just got to really be prepared for as many things as you can prepare for.
Yeah, I would share one thing that I think really felt like a flop at the time. In 2017, I was a county commissioner in Gregory County, and I really wanted to build capacity around economic development on a countywide scale. I thought I really saw potential for that there, and I had a couple other people who agreed with me at the time. And so we decided to start working with a consultant and facilitator on that. And I gathered up, you know, some people from each of the major communities, and people really didn't want to do that. They really didn't care. They wanted to do the things they were doing in their community specifically, and they didn't see the value in what I was kind of suggesting to them. And I had people dropping out, telling me, "Oh, I guess I'm kind of too busy to do this now," and people not showing up for the gatherings we were hosting, and it felt like it's just didn't work at all. But it really, we created a lot of ultimately individual kind of one-on-one relationships or small group relationships that ended up being really powerful across the county. And over probably like 4 or 5 years, we ultimately convinced the county to pay for an investment to be in the learning network with Dakota Resources. And 2 of the communities have hired part-time paid economic development professionals now. And so that was all churning this up for everybody. It just really didn't feel like it was going that well for the first couple of years, right? Um, so yeah, it was pre-planning, it was pre-work, and it ultimately blossomed really well.
Awesome. Thank you to each of you for those great answers. And, I thought that was fantastic. Next question we have here is, every community has unique values. It's a unique context. It's a unique place. Would love to hear what's unique about your community and how have the values of your community shaped the programming you've done in your community as you've thought about how to build that out.
I think for Madison, it's it's kind of always really been a musical town and an arts type town. So starting something like downtown in Madtown, not that it was easy, but it was a little bit easier to get people behind it if they know it was going to be music centered, food centered, and kid and family friendly. So I think that just knowing your community is probably the first step to getting something new started.
Yeah, I think with our Beresford Area Arts, we're a small board, and the people who founded are still on that board, and I've joined, and a couple of others. But looking around that board and thinking about that, we are all also actively involved in our local churches. We don't all go to the same church, but just our local churches, and we all have families, we all have kids or have had kids who've grown up. And I think that just comes to the table with what our mission statement is keeping that positivity, keeping that, whatever we bring to the community should be something that's able to be reached by all ages, and something that can have an uplifting message. And my favorite one of that would have been, we did a Christmas show a couple of years ago that we wrote. Well, Jane Carlson wrote it, and it was a Beresford, a look at Beresford Christmases, a prairie Christmas, I think is what she called it. And it was looking back at the last, since Beresford was a community and how we were founded and the different Christmas traditions and businesses. And it was the most powerful show. So we keep our community at the focus. And that's kind of where our values lead to. And it's really helped. Our community loves those sort of things. So.
Yeah, well, I first got to plug that SDPB was just in Burke this year, and they did a great Dakota Life piece on Burke that I think highlights a lot of what is really special about Burke, especially through the lens of one of our sort of elders in the community that they tag along with. So I hope you will check that out, or even just some of the clips that are on their Facebook page. Burke shaped my values and my husband's values and our values together. And I don't think I can disentangle who I am from the place that I came from and the place that I live now. I think I am who I am only with this place in a lot of ways. And I think one thing I've had a hard time entirely capturing with language, but I've thought a lot about over the last few years, is I do think in Burke we've really had a strong culture of positive leadership for a lot of years. We've had a lot of people who have said, like, look, we're going to have a hospital and here's how we're going to figure it out. Or, we're going to build this new addition on the school, or we're going to have a community center. And I think we've lost some of them, right, over the last 5 or 10 years, and I think you can have a real vacuum, and different voices can fill that void if you're not careful and if you let it. And I think we're having a good transition of strong positive voices, going to continue that legacy of, hey, we want it and we can have it, and we're all gonna get together and we're gonna do it. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you to each of you for the answer to that question, and excellent presentations today, excellent information. I know our attendees really appreciate it, and this will live in the PorchLight resource drive and our YouTube page, and I know be used by many people in the days and years to come. But I'm going to turn it over to Jessica to wrap us up here.
Wow, this was such an incredible webinar. I have taken so many pages of notes, and Kelsey, I love that quote that you just said. I am who I am because of this space. And I think so many people that live and work and experience rural communities can absolutely identify with that statement. I want to hang it in the office. I just love that quote so much. But truly, thank you to all of our panelists today for just coming so prepared and being so present in your presentations. It makes the conversation so rich. And I want to thank all of our attendees for taking your lunch break to listen to these panelists. I hope that each of you had gotten something or what you needed out of this webinar. Like Burke had said, this webinar is going to live on our YouTube page, and it's going to be in our resource drive. So feel free to share it as we get it uploaded. It will be up there in probably the next day or so, and we'll freely share that around. If you want to learn more about who PorchLight is and what we do, head to our website, porchlight-services.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. If you'd like to dive in deeper to this topic and have access to our resource drive where we store all sorts of information, head to porchlight-services.com/subscriptions, where you can sign up for a monthly or yearly subscription to our resource drive. And you can also sign up for our job board. If you've got jobs that you're an employer and you want to post some jobs on our job board or have a subscription to that, that's on our subscriptions page. Next month, I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't plugging next month. Our discussion is titled "The Economic and Community Impact of Rural Broadband in South Dakota," where we're going to have a whole new group of expert panelists sharing their thoughts on this crucial piece of infrastructure to our communities. And again, thank you so much to all of you for spending some time with us, and we hope that you will all join us next month. Have a great day.